Right, welcome everybody to our latest Live Motocross podcast as we talk all things AMA Supercross and MXGP ahead of the Detroit round of Supercross with Jason Thomas and Adam Sterry. Obviously, firstly, thank you everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. We'd also like to thank our sponsor for this episode, In Fly Racing, who have excitingly jumped on board for 2025. Fly Racing is aimed to provide customers with the very best in off-road performance products. Led by the revolutionary Formula S Smart Helmet, Fly Racing continues to push innovation in safety to new levels. Never before has style and technology blended together so seamlessly as the 2025 Fly Racing lineup. For more info, check out flyracing.com or your local Western Powersports dealer. Also follow flyracing.global on social media and cheer for all their riders in the SMX World Championships and MXGP. All right, start with you, JT. How's life? And thanks for joining us, mate. It's been another crazy week in the world of moto, isn't it?
Yeah, things are good. Just heading over to Detroit tomorrow. We're recording this on a Wednesday. And yeah, man, it's a chaotic series we have over here at the moment. And just when we thought everything was going well, we had all this depth and multi-way championship fight. We're losing people seemingly by the day. And we had more injuries in the 250 class today, which it's not my place to break news yet, but there will be news coming on more injuries in the 250 class in the 250 East as of today.
Oh wow, yeah, it's not looking good, is it? And obviously, welcome to you too, Adam, fresh from racing Hawkstone, mate. How's life? And it's been a busy off season and pre-season for you.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back. And yeah, it's been a long off season. A lot of work's gone into it, and we just had the first race this weekend. And as always, Hawkstone was how it is every year: wet, rutty, technical. But it was a good first race with the team and getting everybody working together and test of the bike and see where we're at. And yeah, I was happy with it. And now we've got in Belgium here 2 weeks preparing for the Lera race, and before we know it, then it'll be the first round or my first round in Kozar in Spain. So looking forward to it, and yeah, just putting the work in now.
Yeah, busy times ahead, mate. We'll definitely have some MXGP chat later in the pod, but I guess JT will start with the Tomac injury. Obviously, so sad for him. Obviously, Jet and Eli both out in consecutive weeks with just foot dabs, not even crashing. So, just another testament to how brutal this sport is, isn't it?
It is, and looking back on it, I'm torn because when I watched him ride, I was telling myself there's no way that it's just a bruised calf. There's no way that this guy who I know is incredibly tough would look like he's in that much pain. And when you have adrenaline, I'm sure they gave him something to help with pain. They taped everything up. They did everything they could possibly do to reduce the pain and make it manageable. And he still looked like he couldn't put any weight on it. He was blitzing the whoops with his foot off the peg. Like that to me said there was more going on than we were told at the time. So this makes more sense knowing he had a broken bone. It's amazing that he was able to ride at all. But now I kind of like, okay, now I kind of get where all that pain was coming from, both in the moment when he first did it, and then later on at night when he was trying to race through it. So in any case, pretty brutal for the sport. Hunter Lawrence also, he'll be out this weekend. Less severe injury, but him missing, Detroit with Jet already out, and then Tomac going out is yeah, it's a tough time right now. We're dealing with a lot of injuries, and as I said, there are more, in the 250 class to come.
Yeah, your take on it, Adam. Pretty crazy stuff, mate. And obviously, so impressive that he actually rode on a heat and a main event with a broken leg. But yeah, shocking for the series, especially after Prado as well went out alongside Jet. So tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's never good to see injuries, and I had kind of the same take as JT. Like when I seen it, I thought, I don't. It didn't look to me like a bruised calf. And yeah, knowing Tomac, the type of rider that he is, but it's hard, obviously, to see the race. I just watch it on Supercross, Supermotocross TV, and it's hard to see, like you say, afterwards. I only seen the videos of him riding through the whoops one-footed, which is obviously crazy that he was able to ride with a broken leg like that. But going to Jet the weekend before, that's almost and Tomac's injury actually. Most of my injuries, or almost all of them, have been from similar instance where you don't particularly expect it. I think that's what bites you the most. I think if you're going to have a big crash and you can brace for it or adjust something, then I find you rarely get injured from that. It's always the small dabs or a crash that you didn't expect or um, yeah, I did my ACL exactly like Jet did his, and it was like 7 years ago. Fast flashback for me when I seen that on TV. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I said exactly the same thing. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he's done his ACL because that's how I did mine. But obviously, it's a shame, and yeah, it affects the racing as the racing was really good actually this year, and I was enjoying watching it.
And what was your recovery like on that ACL, just quickly, time frames and just difficulty?
It seems now, but I think in these complex, it depends what you've done, how badly you've done it, what needs repairing. Mine was a long time. Like when you do it as well, depends on if you need how long you need to be back for. I did mine like 4 rounds into the World Championship, so my season was finished from that moment. So I didn't need to rush, but mine was a long time because I did a good job on my knee. So I did a microfracture, meniscus, full ACL tear. So mine was a while. Mine was like 8 months, but that was 7 years ago. So might have got a lot faster now. I hear people coming back really fast. Like I think they said Jet maybe it was 4 months.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to get him out there for the opener. And you think about nearly 4 months he'll have. It's possible. I do think he races. It's just in what capacity. If he has to go out there and get 14th, then that's okay because you think about, that's 10 or 15 more points than he would have had. And if you start looking at the full season plus what that does to his positioning for the playoffs, it's probably worth it. Plus, like Adam, you'll know this, the putting your body through that 70 minutes of racing on Saturday will just speed up his, not necessarily his knee recovery, but the rest of his body, like the muscles that all it takes to go really fast. He's going to be just 1 week further ahead in that recovery process. But I do think with the way the resources he has, and you think about what they have, money's no option. So whether it's stem cells or plasma or anything on this earth that can help him improve his recovery time, they're going to have access to. So it's hard for me without some sort of serious setback to see him not on the line at the opener.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I don't know to what extent. Obviously, he's done it in depth with his surgeon and stuff, but like you said, with stem cells and everything, I'm sure that can be sped up. I'm sure I could have rode earlier with mine as well, but there was just no need for me to come back
Yeah,
because
yeah, for sure.
it was too long, and then it was just focus on to the next year then.
I think one of the big things too for him is he's 21 and being young
Yeah,
is such a benefit as far as quick recovery.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one to follow. And obviously, another key takeaway from the issue that's been doing the rounds in the industry, JT, is the lappers. And obviously, Kenny and Larry Brooks, he had his comments on it too. I guess
Yeah.
what's your take on it? Our colleague Lewis at Vital was saying, in road racing, you can just, jump off, get out of the line. But in Supercross, those lines are always changing. And you really sort of ruin any sort of momentum in rhythm sections that are so important to do, which can elevate danger if you're rolling them as well. So it's so hard to do. The impacts are massive, motocross and Supercross when you pull off, but it's a tough solution. There's no real remedy for it, or it would have been done already in a lot of ways. It's hard to enforce penalties with, would you need more cameras, more flaggers? Is the weight of the blue flag enough for these guys? So what's your take on it? Firstly, JT, then Adam.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. The simple thing is that if there was a solution, it would have already been implemented. And this has been talked about for 40 years, literally. And we haven't been able to come to some sort of right answer about how to mitigate this. So there's no reason for me to think that there's going to be some magical solution that's conjured up now. And it's really difficult to tell riders, especially when they're battling for position. In the case of Roxon, I understand that it's not the race for the lead and they're not championship implications. I get all that, but it's still these riders' livelihoods, and they're in a 450 main event battling for position to try to get points for a national number and to qualify for the SMX playoffs and all those things. So to tell them like, hey, forget about your race. you need to move over because fourth place is coming by. And that's literally what we're talking about in the scenario is Kenny was in fourth. You need to move out of the way because fourth place is coming by and your race is no longer relevant anymore. And I understand that may be oversimplifying it and maybe I'm overstating that a little bit, but in the end, that's what you're telling them is like, hey, you don't matter as much as they do. Quit racing, get out of the way. And even if that's the way we want to go, okay, fine. I don't decide. That's not for me to decide. But if that's the way we want to go, we also have to understand that moving out of the way can sometimes be one of the most dangerous things you can do because Kenny or whoever, Cooper, Malcolm, Chase, whoever it might be at any particular race, the only thing they can do is look at the rider they're lapping and have some sort of hope of predictability of where that rider is going to go. And then they position themselves and make a plan to go past them based off of where they're not going to be. And if that rider is now told when you're getting lapped, get out of the way, make a dedicated movement and a concerted effort to move out of the way, well, there's a great chance, especially in a battle where Cooper and Kenny are battling, there's a great chance they're going to move into the way. So that's where the challenge comes into this is for years, we've basically come to the agreement of just hold your line. Don't do anything erratic. And then that will allow the faster rider to know where to go and they're going to make a pass anyway. That's why they're being lapped to start with is because they're going much slower. And as long as the following rider, the leaders coming by know where you're going to be, they're going to be able to make their move past them. I still think that's the best course of action. It doesn't mean it's infallible, but I don't really see another way around it. And there are always going to be exceptions to it because this situation was one of the worst you can have. Two riders battling for position in both scenarios. The lapped riders are battling for position and the lead riders are battling for position. So now you've got four guys all grouped up together in one of the most treacherous sections we've seen in years, which was the sand. It's not going to get worse than that. And that doesn't excuse this incident, but I think this was like the extreme example of how it can go wrong because we squeezed too many people in too tight of a spot with zero predictability of where they were going. And all it took was Jeremy Hand to move a little bit to the right and Kenny moved 6 inches to his left. And then it just exploded. And Tristan Lane went down, not anything to do with Tristan Lane. He just was a casualty of the other contact. So I don't know. I'm certainly not saying that Larry Brooks is wrong. I'm not saying that Cooper Webb is wrong. Both of them kind of shared the same sentiment in their interviews, Coop on Saturday night and Larry this week. I just don't know that we have the right answer. So unless you're going to present a workable solution that holds water, I don't know that complaining about it or stating the obvious problem is doing a whole lot. So I don't know. That's kind of where I come down on it is I don't think that they're wrong. I don't. I understand. And I've been the guy that's being lapped and I understand what it feels like to not know where to go. And no matter what you do, seems like you're doing the wrong thing. And I've lapped people too. I've raced all over the world and lapped lots of people. And I've been furious at them for being in the way. Nobody's trying to ruin the race or have their race ruined. So until we can find, again, I'll end where I started, until we can find something that actually everybody looks at and says, oh, yeah, that's going to work. I don't see a lot changing. I really don't. I think we're going to be in the same spot again in 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with JT. It's really difficult in motocross and supercross because everyone's taking different lines. It's not as easy as a road race track or a Formula 1 track to just hold your line or just move out the way. Everyone's taking different lines. And especially in supercross, the track is only so wide. So where do you actually move if two people are battling when you've got a blue flag? And like JT said, actually moving out the way is worse. Like if you're on a normal... Over here in Belgium, you ride with the normal public, and when somebody moves out of your way on a normal practice day or a sand track, it's actually worse because they move into your way. So I second that, but I did see what Cooper Webb said, but I don't know. It's a difficult one. I guess I don't know what here's a question, JT. In Supercross, do you have the same flaggers that go to every Supercross race, or is it always different?
Always different. Yeah, always different.
Always different. The only thing that could mean maybe I don't know how it is there or how well they get trained before the weekend is. I feel like in Europe sometimes that the blue flag could be implemented better, as in you get shown it not earlier, but sometimes you get shown it too early, and then you're
Right.
slowing down, looking, think, oh, I have 10 seconds behind, then you carry on, and then yeah, that makes it more difficult. I don't know if they could change the rules where they show
You
you
almost get
the flag.
desensitized to it if they give it to you too early.
Yeah, and then you start thinking about it, and then you're having a battle, and or maybe it should be just the rule that you can't. If you're a lap rider, you can't overtake for position under the blue flag circumstances because
Right.
I've had
Yep,
it as well.
that makes sense.
When you're in a battle and you get blue flagged, and you're trying your best to actually move out the way of the race leaders for the win. But yeah, then once they've passed the guy you're battling with, he just hops on the back wheel of the front two, and he comes blowing past you as well. So
Yeah,
I think
this weekend
that they're two subtle changes, but
was a
I think
bad
that could help a
scenario.
little bit.
I think some tracks it's really easy, and I hope this comes across the right, or I'm translating this right way, but on many tracks there's a dedicated kind of primary line and then kind of a secondary line that's not quite as good.
Yeah,
And everybody racing knows where the good line is and the not so good line. And really, as a general rule, if you're being lapped, you always want to give the leaders the good line. And you can just take the secondary line, and that's typically going to be enough. They're going to go through in the faster line, and they're going faster anyway, and it takes care of itself. Tampa was very difficult because the track was a little bit narrow and very one-lined. So you really had to try to get out of the way. And there were a few sections you could get like the corner before the whoops, you could go to the outside berm where nobody was going. That would get you out of the way. And there were a couple of sections where you could really do it, but a lot of sections you really couldn't. You couldn't get out of the way so much. Like you could try to move over a few feet, but there was nowhere really to go. In those sections, if the leaders came up on you, you were just in the way. You were going to be in the way, and if you made an evasive maneuver to get out of the way, you're probably going to make it worse than it already was.
yeah. I guess in Supercross it is a lot more difficult than outdoors, but I feel like if they implement just then maybe some small changes, like you said, I don't think we're gonna ever cancel it completely out because it's moto. There's too many factors. You might be 5 seconds faster than this guy on that section, or but if you was not able to gain a position, if you are under the blue flag circumstances, I would feel that would stop the people getting lapped racing so much in that circumstance.
Yeah, no, I think that your idea there is a good one. It's a small change. It maybe doesn't fix everything, but it would be an improvement, which is really what we're trying to accomplish anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Great insight, lads. Really great convo. And obviously, I guess we'll quickly touch on, similar topic in a way, and with a lack of solutions is the top blocks. Obviously, they see they're there for safety and advertising or whatever. How much portion of that goes each way. WSX has the cardboard boxes. That has its own issues. Adam, I guess, as you and MXGP, a lot of those track protecting things. They have the Ram truck there. At least they don't have that in Supercross. But those finish line structures are pretty dangerous with the cords coming off. If you go off, you can sort of get decapitated almost. So that's pretty wild. You have the yellow stakes in motocross. Or even RJ got stabbed with them once. So I guess we'll start with you, JT. Once again, it's a good talking point, but the solutions are sort of not definite, are they?
No, and I wonder if there are downsides to it, but I don't know. Like globally, this phrase may not work, but we call them hay bales, and basically they're just straw that are tied together, and that's what we had. That's what was used. That's what was used when I was racing, and they're not perfect, but they do move. They don't like catch, if that makes sense. Like they're not going to hook on your foot peg or like the tough block, and the material that we use now is really sticky, and it really wants to hold on and cause problems with your motorcycle. Like when Pierce Brown caught it, instead of just blowing it out of the way, it almost absorbs energy, catches, and then that changes the trajectory of where you're going, which is typically going to be too much to recover from, and that's why you see these crashes. The hay bale just would either move out of the way because it wasn't held in place and it would just move, or it would explode. Like if you landed on it, it would just go like poof and a explosion of hay and straw, like abracadabra, but it would at least not impede what you were doing. And it usually didn't even make you crash. It would scare the hell out of you because you think you were going to crash, but then it would just give way. Your rear tire or whatever would blow through it. And if you were going to save it, at least you had a chance to. The downside of it is it gets in the dirt and they don't like how that looks because they use the same dirt year after year. So I understand it's not a perfect solution, but when I compare the two, to me, if you're purely considering rider safety, to me it's a superior option to what we have now because I've hit tough blocks. If you hit a tough block, you're probably going down. That's just the long and the short of it. One way or another, it's going to make sure you're on the ground. And I just didn't have that same experience with hay bales. I've hit 100 of them and didn't crash.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I've not been to a Supercross, so I don't actually know what a tough block feels or how heavy it is or what it's like to hit one. But it seems to be a lot more common now. But I don't know why. I guess if you want something, you need something that's going to collapse if you land on it or blow out the way if you clip it. And when at the side of the start in MXGP, might be one thing that we have that's better than you, is they have just like it velcros. It's like cardboard monster, small hay bales, I guess, if you wish, but it's filled with nothing. It's just like a stiff base, and it's like a half a circle, and it just velcros on. And if you hit that, they just knock out of the way. If you go down the start straight and you get clipped and you start going towards it, they just either collapse or just move out of the way. I don't know if something like that would be better.
I'll
Yeah,
take anything over what we have right now.
Yeah, your take on
Yeah.
those finish line structures too, Adam? A few incidents with them or close calls as well?
What, in MXGP?
Yeah.
I'd rather hit a tough block than some of the things on the side of the MXGP track, that's for sure. Like you say, there's Ram trucks, there's sprinkler systems, there's lorry,
We used to have a boat.
curtain side, tie straps, holding up a metal fox, a whole
We used to
shot
have a
line on the outside of the corner.
gigantic ski boat, wakeboard boat in the middle of the track.
Oh yeah,
That's
I remember that.
Bring it back.
Yeah, we have a lot of things in MXGP, to be fair, but some of the tracks are old school where there is actually nothing you can do about it. But there's like one that always gets me. It's like the bottom of the track at Czech Republic. Can you pick? When you do that tabletop at the bottom, and then you have that banked right hand corner after it.
Yep.
Can you picture that? Or not?
Yeah.
And there's
totally.
just a house. There's just a house the other side of that. If you got it wrong off that tabletop, or when you landed, that berm you would land straight on the roof of the guy's house. I wish they were taking a little bit consideration of maybe putting a net like you have in Supercross, or some of the places cover the trees up, like in Lugo this year. I can't remember who it was. Just hit one of the trees. It was the fill-in rider for Jackie Martins. He just hit one of the trees, and it was just, that's his season finished after that. But sometimes I think that's where they need to improve over here, but that's the investment. I guess it takes quite a lot of investment, and I guess that's maybe not that high on the priority list.
If Albertine were here, this was where he would mention a deer, but I don't think that was anybody's fault.
That's actually the first bad word I've heard you say about Lockett, actually, Adam. One of your favourites, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad thing. I guess it was a bad thing, but that is one of my favourites, yeah.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of places or tracks in MXGP where you wouldn't want to go off track.
How do you feel about? I'm going to go to Kozar again this year. How do you feel about that place?
To be fair, I missed it at the end of last year, so I don't actually know the.
Oh, I can't wait.
Everyone was telling me how bad. Everyone was telling me how bad it was. So
honestly, for me, it was great. Great weather. I
That was
mean,
good on the sideline.
yeah, Spain weather, like hotel was nice. I didn't have to ride it at all. I got my shoes dirty, but that was probably like my only complaint. That's about it.
Maybe it's moved into a different field now. Maybe it's a new field.
Yeah, some choice words for Hurlings on that one. And how's it going to be, JT? Because they reckon the crowd there was just massive because of Prado and the title. They reckon it might be a bit slim this year without the lure of Prado. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, and it wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't that crazy crowd wise. It really wasn't. If you compare it to like a French GP or something like that, it wasn't. Um, it was fine. I do think it'll be lightly attended this year, like without that draw. It's early in the season, but I think for everybody but the riders, it's a pretty good event. It's in a nice area. The weather's nice. It's not incredibly difficult to get to. It's just for the riders, the dirt is just pretty terrible. I'm trying to be careful with my words here, but I walked around it, and as a racer, it doesn't matter how long. And Adam, you'll learn this one. It doesn't matter how long it's been since you raced. When you go out onto a track, it's immediately what you think of. You picture yourself racing it and how you would attack it and all those things. That never changes. And I remember looking at it and going, I am so thankful that I don't have to ride this. Like I just doesn't look fun. It looks so tricky, so slippery, like a rock base, and traction was like it's kind of going down a hill. So a lot of the corners are off camber, and you're trying to make it work. Yeah, really challenging. But as an event, thinking about the business side of it, I understand why they're trying to get events to these new areas, just really, really challenging, I think, overall dirt. But that's MXGP. The fact that those guys, all you guys, Adam, everybody can go the speeds that you guys go on those tracks with that dirt and that prep, I will never understand how you guys do it.
Yeah, I've not been there yet, so thanks for lightening the mood for that first round. But now we have loads of tracks where the ground's far from ideal. Like, yeah, we literally have every type of ground from deep sand to hard sand to volcanic rock to like Kozar, Imola. One time there was steel, concrete. What you put in concrete to strengthen it. Them steel rods, they were in the track. Yeah, we have it all.
Yeah, they certainly tested every weekend, that's for sure. And obviously, onto, I guess, a bit more Supercross, JT. How good was it being there in person to see Mookie get his first 450 win? Absolutely awesome at home. His dad was there. Brother James was in the commentary booth and on the broadcast team like yourself, mate. Really popular win. Everyone loves Malcolm Stewart. So all the congratulations poured in, mate. But really special moment, wasn't it?
It was. That place was electric. The last, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes of the main event, and then for 20 minutes afterwards. And Malcolm has the benefit of he hasn't been in a title fight really ever, or at least for a very long time. And that gives him the benefit of not really having anybody rooting against him. He's very similar to like Aaron Plessinger that way, where if you're not battling against anybody's favorite rider for a championship, you're not going to really build up any animosity towards you. So it's all benefit, right? Everybody's rooting for Malcolm the same way everybody was rooting for Aaron Plessinger a year ago when he was winning in at Detroit in 2023. Because of that, he's not anybody's nemesis where everybody's like, anybody but Malcolm or anybody. There is none of that. It just doesn't exist. So when you have a weekend like that where that guy wins, and especially their first one, it's feel good vibes all around. Everybody's thrilled for him. No one, is like, damn it, I wish so and so had won, because everybody's so happy for Malcolm. So that's a really cool environment that you don't get very often, because it doesn't matter if it's Tomac or Jet or Webb or Roxon or somebody's like, damn it, I wish so and so had won. Like, that screws my guy. Like, nobody was talking like that after. And it was the same thing with when AP won San Diego. Nobody was talking like that. So it's one of those moments where the entire sport can all be happy for someone. And it's sad to say, but that doesn't come around all that often. And to see him and James in the booth was so proud of his little brother and his dad, to kind of finally see Malcolm make good on what, many had believed he was capable of for a long time. Yeah, it was really hard to not just have so much joy through them, like be living vicariously through them and feel the joy that they felt.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things I've seen in a while as well. Normally, every Sunday I wake up and watch Supercross. That's the first thing I do. And this Sunday I couldn't because it was Hawkstone. So it was like trying to fight off the results all day. And yeah, obviously impossible at a motocross race to someone not to mention what happened. But when I heard it, then I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then afterwards, when you watched it, just everything, like you say, how much effort over all this time. As a rider, you know how difficult that is. How many hours and years of work he's put in, and to see it in his hometown with his brother commentating, and obviously, but his brother, a legend through the whoops. He won or gaining most of the time in the whoops that night, and yeah, to see him win that was pretty cool from my perspective.
Yeah, it was a special night for sure, and obviously it's going to be really fascinating to see the Sexton and Cooper Webb. Do we get some nice mind games going on? Cooper Webb will be keen to sort of put the foot on the throat in some ways because he sort of picked up the pieces after Sexton went down, and that's got to be a tough one for Chase, obviously, JT. He actually got the whole shot, which has been half the battle all the time for him, and it's a real head scratcher, obviously, to lose it like that. He'll be so frustrated. Didn't really hear much after the race from him, but Cooper Webb, he's got everyone where he wants him at this point. He's got the momentum. He's primed for a title push for sure. He's got that sort of last man standing vibes, and he's an absolute warrior. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Does he get the mind games going, do you think?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how Chase responds to this. And, he put out that tweet Monday talking about, it's the most important thing is how you respond to moments like this. And I think that's all well and good. That's great, but he's going to have to act upon that, and everybody like kind of nods their head and like, yep, you're right. That it is more important how you respond moving forward, because we're only 5 rounds through this thing. And whether you're looking at 17 rounds of Supercross or 28 rounds of combined or 31 rounds of the whole shebang, we're very early in any of those scenarios. So whatever's going to happen certainly wasn't decided last Saturday night. And he's still the points leader. He's had the red plate for 2 weeks in a row. He has 2 wins in 5 races. Like, there's a lot to be really excited about. So I think it's very important for him to focus on the most important things, which are the positives. I'm the points leader. I've won 2 races. I'm in great position. 2 for sure, Tomac and Jet, are out. Roxon is severely wounded as far as his championship fight goes. So we're down to 2 guys realistically now for the short term of where this thing goes. So that's a better thing too. Like, so why am I going to sit here and, punch the air and freak out about this situation that is miles better than it could be right now? And if you frame it the right way and you put it in the right perspective and understand, well, okay, yeah, so you're telling me I have to beat Cooper Webb. That sounds really hard to do, but I don't have to beat any of these other guys. And I start out with a 5-point lead. I don't know. I think he's probably less enthusiastic about my sales pitch there than I am. But I think there's a lot of power in that is understanding how great of a position you are in going into round 6. There are a lot of people that would be very excited to be in the position with red on your number plate backgrounds like Chase Sexton is. So let's see what kind of fire he's got, because to his own statement, it really matters how he answers the bell come Saturday afternoon.
Was there anything wrong after his crash?
Yeah. His front brake lever was like aimed straight forward. I think his throttle was damaged a bit. So I think he was scared of turning a 5th place into a 15th if he did something really stupid.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like there's something up because we've seen obviously make mistakes before, and it's not likely that he was just going to drop back to 5th. It seemed like there was something up, but I didn't know
Yeah, I got literally walked down to the side of the track to look at his bike when he came by, and I finally saw it, and I was trying to get on, but it was like the last lap,
Oh,
and generally the last lap is like a no-go for me to get on the air. But yeah, his bike was definitely messed up.
yeah.
Yeah, watch for him to come out swinging for sure. And obviously, I guess with not too much time left, we'll just do a quick take on the 250s. Obviously, awesome to see Anstey, the UK connection there, Adam. Really cool to see him getting the win. He showed his experience, consistency, just to handle different situations. It's just he has the edge in a lot of different areas of racing, and that shone through. But really awesome for Bennick to make that a 1-2 for Star as well. Obviously, JT touched on the Pierce Brown injury. Really sad for him, and hope he heals up quick and has a smooth recovery. But yeah, it's wild that 250 class, isn't it, JT? So much going on.
Yeah, I really view that Tampa round as almost an Anaheim one for the 450 class. Too many riders riding with too much nervousness, too much chaos, everybody trying too hard, making silly mistakes. There was just a lot of that. Pierce Brown unfortunately looked great, and then had that crash. But you look all around him, the Hampshire thing, getting stuck on a tough block is such a random event. Tom Vial looked incredibly uncomfortable and nervous, like coming in as the defending champ. So I just think it was a weird event. And my general rule is if you try to deduce full season results out of an event like that, you're probably going to be led astray. So, credit to Max. He was phenomenal. Just really couldn't put a foot wrong all day and all night. But I think to assume that we're not going to see these other guys fire back a little bit and have more to offer is probably wrong. So I think Detroit will be a much better indicator of where we go from here versus what I think we saw in Tampa.
Yeah, that was really cool to see Max win that. I second everything JT said. He looked really in control, even the red flag. He looked like he made no mistakes. Looked like a real, well, I guess because of the experience, a real experienced ride. But I don't know. I guess there's been an East or a West that's never been that stacked. So I don't know whether that had something to do with why people were making so many mistakes as well. Because normally you have, I don't know, 4 or 5 really good riders on each coast. And as this was, I don't remember ever seeing a coast with this many good riders. And I don't know if JT can agree with that or seen it
Oh
otherwise,
yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't
No, you're
remember
right.
seeing that many good riders on one coast before.
Yeah, the depth, it didn't really show up. Kitchen had a terrible night. Hampshire had a terrible main event, but the talent level as a whole in this East Coast is the highest I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Over 10 factory riders, I believe. And, McAdoo getting third with the torn ACL. What an effort, brave effort for sure. He's a valiant warrior. He loves getting to work. Obviously, that issue that happened just before, he wasn't letting this opportunity to race slip. But he said it's not sustainable to keep racing with that, but he just wants to get through Supercross. So impressive for him. And I guess Hammaker too, and just Pro Circuit just to get through that round after so many injury battles in recent memory. They've had a shocking run. So obviously didn't go to plan for Kitchen, but good for PC there, wasn't it, JT, to have a couple of, quality results.
Yeah, Haymaker's going to be a weapon in this series. He's going to be good. The consistency has always been his challenge. He's probably going to have some really bad races too. That's just been the story of Seth Haymaker. I was the most disappointed of anybody with Kitchen, and I just, man, when you can't race the West and then you move to East and you know that you need to perform, he just, and I'll qualify this by saying that I heard that he was a lot sicker or more sick for a lot longer than was reported. I heard that and I didn't know how much credence to put on it, but watching him ride made me feel like that was very true. Whoever, had that insight, I now want to believe very much because he had no real speed in qualifying. His heat race wasn't good. His main event might have been worse. He just really didn't do much of anything throughout the day. And we know if this was just some also ran, even on that team, I would be like, okay, well, ninth isn't good, but whatever. This is Levi Kitchen. This is a guy that won races going away last year and took the championship down to the last couple of points. And we all considered the heir apparent to one of these coasts for a championship fight. Like these were all assumed things that he had earned. And now after watching one race at Tampa, I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go. So I'm going to take my own medicine and just say, you know what? I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater from Tampa. Let's see what happens in Detroit. Let's see how this goes. If he looks the same, then fine. We can lean into the assumptions that I want to make, but I'm not going to be hypocritical and say he looked terrible. That's awful. It's going to be an awful series when I just made the point of don't let Tampa be the defining moment of 2025 yet. So I'll give it an incomplete. It wasn't good by any means, but I'm going to wait and see more before I crucify him here in analysis.
Yeah, I had the same feeling about Faulkner. I don't know. You will know more behind the scenes and everything, but he looked really uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, he was really sick, but yeah, the only thing I'll add, he was really sick, but I would even say I've ridden really sick, and I felt more comfortable than he looked. He just didn't look good on the motorcycle. Like if you told me he faded really bad at the end or he couldn't finish the main event, okay, but I never like watching him, he did not look very good on the bike. So that was much more worrisome than the result. But yes, you're not wrong about Faulkner, that's for sure.
Because like always in the past, okay, he was injured a lot, but he always looked really comfortable, really fast. And like comparing him to obviously Jordan Smith, he looked really good on the Triumph and made the bike look really good. But he just, even when you was watching it and watching the qualifying, he seemed like he was just struggling a lot. But maybe, like you say, maybe that was just that round. Maybe this weekend the setup will suit him better, and maybe the results will be completely different.
Yeah, it'd be a good one to see because definitely a lot of guys with a lot of room for improvement in that 250 class. And we'll just finish up with a little bit of MXGP sort of preseason chat. Obviously, Adam as well at Hawkstone on the weekend. It was obviously good to get back out there as the build up to the MXGP season continues. Obviously, Hawkstone was won by Koldenhoff, followed by Renault, Fevre, Jonas, Yago, and Valandrin. Obviously, MX2 Valon was just a cut above, wasn't he? So I guess we can start with you, JT. Any particular takeaways from that race? Obviously, it wasn't televised, so we'll probably lean on Adam for this, but it's just good to have him back out there as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I just think, these warm-up races in general are fun, and we don't really know what we're going to get. I almost kind of view them though the same way I do Tampa, is like I don't want to jump to conclusions because I don't know how seriously everybody takes these things. The World Championship is the most important thing, so how hard is everyone trying? Are they willing to take all the risks? And not every championship competitor is out there, but they are fun. I think to try to glean something from them is exciting. And I think the only one I really looked at and said, oh wow, that's a good sign was I think for Kunin. I watching him, I just want to see how he adapts, and he was able to ride the mud and he looked pretty good. But the rest of them for me are just kind of, I just let it be pure entertainment and try not to get too carried away with what I'm watching.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, I take it as a warm-up race anyway. Obviously, what I said before, and people maybe testing things, don't want to take so much risk, especially on a track like Hawkstone. It can be a point where the season can be over in an instant. It's that type of race where it's very sketchy with the ruts and anything can happen. So just take it as a first race with a team or some testing, or just to get the first starts, get the arm pump out of the way. Nothing too crazy. Of course, it's a race, so you're still pushing, but for me, it's always about pushing within your limits. And obviously, getting injured at a warm-up race, which means nothing at the start of the year, is far from ideal. And then the whole year, you feel like you're playing catch-up. So that's what I like to take from it, and always like to do a couple of these races, use them as a bit of testing, get the arm pump out of the way, get some race starts, see where you're at compared to other people, see how your fitness is, race day fitness, and I just think they're good preparation for the actual season to start.
Yeah, well said, mate. And obviously, just quickly, JT, you touched on the Italian one there. Obviously, guys that won that one ahead of Coonan, Bonacorsi, Siwa, Gifting, Guadagnini, and Watson in eighth. Really good to see him back out there. And obviously, first race on the fly gear for the Coonan brothers and Langenfelder. That's an exciting moment too, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, that was a dream come true getting, I'm going to get this right. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing DeCarli. The dream come true getting that team on board, and really excited to spend some time with them throughout 2025. So, we've had lots of talent, even like we've had Conrad Muse forever, and but to have those guys, which I think Lucas Kunin is coming into, he's going to be approaching like this period where his acceleration curve and improvement and growth is going to kind of go supersonic here. To be a part of that in that process is going to be really fun. So great thing for the brand. I always kind of, when I say we, me, it kind of is blends together with fly racing. But yeah, I think it's normal when you're this involved, then it just kind of feels like you as a person, even though it's a brand. But I'm very, very excited to be associated with the team first, and then yeah, of course, all three riders as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And obviously, lastly, just a quick couple of predictions, JT and Adam, for Detroit. Any insights on the track, JT, and also just the travel? How excited you are? It's going to be a busy next few days for you, no doubt.
Yeah, it's going to be cold and snowy. That's for sure. So welcome to winter is what it's going to be for most of the series. It's cold where I'm at, but for most people in Florida, it's 80 degrees. Well, I don't know what, 25, 28, something like that Celsius. But the track is pretty straightforward. It's nothing too crazy. There's no real standout moments or anything. I just think in the 450 class, this two-man battle is really going to take center stage for the weekend, and kind of they're going to be sussing each other out a bit, where it's been this multi-way thing. Now they're really going to be honed in on each other more. And in the 250 class, I still think it's wide open. I think we're going to learn a lot more than we know sitting here on a Wednesday on a Saturday. And that's great that there's a lot more to unpack there, just because there's so much talent, and this thing could go 12 different directions, and I would shrug my shoulders at every single one of them.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict, obviously, especially not knowing more inside information on all the tracks or stuff. But I really like, maybe not for the win, but I think Malcolm's going to have a lot more confidence now. Big weight off his shoulders. I think he's going to be more of the podium contender in the next few rounds.
Certainly should be. Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, well said. Thank you very much for joining us, both JT and Adam. It's been an awesome chat, and obviously massive thanks as well to Fly Racing for sponsoring this episode. Obviously, check out flyracing.com, check out all your local dealers, follow Fly Racing on social media, and cheer on all of those aforementioned Fly Racing riders in the SMX series and MXGP. So all the best for the weekend, lads. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to catching up soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, boys.